All I was worried about was that it would be good, the one segment.
Bea Arthur was more than just a television star. She was a towering presence, both literally and figuratively, who left an unforgettable mark on Hollywood. From her commanding performance in Maude to her legendary role as Dorothy in The Golden Girls, Bea had an aura that could silence a room. But behind the sarcastic wit and sharp one-liners that fans adored was a woman whose personal journey was far more complicated than most people ever knew. She wasn't just a comedian. Bea Arthur had lived a life filled with bold choices, heartbreaking struggles, and private battles she rarely shared publicly. Her fans saw the confident, witty actress on screen, but off-screen, Bea often wrestled with loneliness, personal insecurities, and a burning desire to be taken seriously as more than just the funny woman. And when she passed away, the truth about her final years shocked fans who thought they knew her best. What she endured, the decisions she made in her private life, and the legacy she left behind revealed a side of Bea Arthur that was deeply human and deeply tragic. Today, we uncover the real story of Bea Arthur, her rise, her struggles, her conflicts, and the bittersweet truth about what are before Bea Arthur became a household name. She was a young woman searching for her place in the world, never quite fitting into the mold others expected of her. Born Bernice Frankel in 1922 in Brooklyn, New York, she grew up in a Jewish household during the difficult years of the Great Depression. Her tall frame, deep voice, and commanding presence set her apart from a young age. While other girls were praised for being delicate and soft-spoken, Bea was outspoken, sharp-witted, and not afraid to say what she thought. It was these very qualities that would one day turn her into a star. Few people know that before Hollywood, Bea Arthur served her country. In the early 1940s, as World War II raged, she enlisted in the United States Marine Corps Women's Reserve. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, Bea cut an imposing figure even then. Records show she worked as a truck driver and typist, proving herself in a male-dominated environment where women were rarely taken seriously. This experience hardened her resolve and gave her the confidence to pursue a path that defied expectations. After her service, Bea studied acting at the New School's dramatic workshop in New York. She threw herself into theater, where she found mentors like Erwin Piscator and rubbed shoulders with future legends such as Marlon Brando and Tony Curtis. On stage, she wasn't the glamorous ingenue. Instead, she embraced character roles, leaning into her husky voice, sharp timing, and ability to dominate a scene. Directors quickly noticed that Bea had something unique, an unshakable presence that demanded attention. Her big break came in the 1960s, when she landed the role of Yente the Matchmaker in the Broadway production of Fiddler on the Roof. Though it wasn't the lead, Bea's performance stood out. She followed that with her Tony Award-winning role as Vera Charles in Mame, opposite her lifelong friend Angela Lansbury. The stage became Bea's training ground, teaching her how to command audiences with nothing more than her wit and razor-sharp delivery. Television eventually came calling. In the early 1970s, producer Norman Lear cast her in All in the Family as Maude Findlay, Edith Bunker's outspoken cousin. Audiences were immediately captivated by her brash honesty, feminist ideals, and no-nonsense attitude. Bea had the kind of timing that made every line land, and the character resonated with viewers who were living through the turbulent social changes of the time. Her success in All in the Family led to her own spin-off, Maude, which ran from 1972 to 1978. The show pushed boundaries, tackling issues like women's rights, abortion, and mental health, subjects rarely discussed on television then. Bea wasn't just acting. She was helping to shape the national conversation, and she thrived in it. But beneath the applause and accolades, Bea Arthur was still a woman navigating her own insecurities. She often worried about how she was perceived, too tall, too blunt, too unconventional. Yet it was exactly those traits that set her apart and made her unforgettable. By the end of the 1970s, Bea Arthur had established herself as one of television's most fearless performers. She was no longer just Bernice Frankel from Brooklyn. She was Bea Arthur, a woman who had carved out her place in Hollywood through grit, talent, and sheer determination. This was only the beginning of her journey, but already It was clear. Bea Arthur wasn't just going to play a part. She was going to change the game. Ely happened to one of television's most iconic stars. By the early 1980s, Bea Arthur had already cemented her reputation as a bold, commanding actress. But what happened next would elevate her to a whole new level of fame. For many fans, it's impossible to think of Bea without recalling her most iconic role, Dorothy Zbornak in The Golden Girls. The idea for The Golden Girls was risky at the time. A sitcom about 4 older women living together in Miami was not exactly what television executives thought would attract younger audiences. Yet, in 1985, NBC took the gamble, and it became one of the most beloved shows in TV history. Bea Arthur, alongside Betty White, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty, created magic on screen. Their chemistry was unmatched, and their humor reached across generations. Dorothy Zbornak, Bea's character, was intelligent, sharp-tongued, and often the voice of reason among her roommates. Dorothy's dry wit and no-nonsense attitude fit Bea's natural personality perfectly. Audiences saw not just a character, but a reflection of Bea herself. A woman who wasn't afraid to speak her mind, even when it made others uncomfortable. The show tackled taboo topics in ways sitcoms rarely dared. From ageism and illness to LGBTQ+ rights and women's independence, The Golden Girls brought real issues into American living rooms while keeping audiences laughing. Bea, along with her co-stars, was praised for breaking down stereotypes about older women and proving that life didn't end at middle age. It only got funnier, sharper, and sometimes even bolder. Behind the scenes, though the experience wasn't always easy. While Bea loved the impact of the show and respected her co-stars, tensions sometimes arose. Rumors swirled about her difficult working relationship with Betty White. Betty later admitted in interviews that Bea found her constant cheerfulness irritating, while Bea herself confessed that she often felt misunderstood by her peers. These differences never completely derailed the show, but they added a layer of tension that mirrored the fiery dynamics between the characters themselves. Despite any off-camera friction, Bea's performance earned her immense respect. She won an Emmy for The Golden Girls in 1988 and became a role model for countless women. Her portrayal of Dorothy inspired viewers who felt overlooked, ignored, or undervalued. Dorothy wasn't glamorous or flawless. She was real, strong, and deeply relatable. But as the series soared in popularity, Bea began feeling a quiet restlessness. By the early 1990s, after 7 successful seasons, she decided it was time to leave. The departure shocked fans who couldn't imagine the show without Dorothy. Bea later explained that she felt her character's story had run its course and she didn't want to keep playing the same role without growth. Her exit marked the beginning of the end for The Golden Girls. The series attempted to continue as The Golden Palace, but without Bea, the magic was gone. The show only lasted a single season, proving just how vital she was to the group's chemistry. Walking away wasn't easy, but Bea had always been guided by integrity in her craft. She wanted to be remembered not just as a TV star, but as an actress who valued depth and authenticity. While millions of fans mourned the loss of Dorothy, Bea moved forward, seeking new challenges. This chapter of her career solidified her place in entertainment history. From Maude to The Golden Girls, Bea Arthur had done what few actresses could, lead 2 groundbreaking shows that changed the landscape of television forever. Yet despite the laughter she brought to millions, Bea herself carried a weight of loneliness and insecurity that no amount of applause could erase. It was in these quiet shadows of her success that the seeds of her later struggles were planted. Struggles that would reveal the very human side of the woman fans adored. While audiences adored Bea Arthur for her quick wit and larger-than-life characters, her off-screen reality was far more complicated. To many who knew her personally, Bea was a paradox, warm and generous one moment, distant and guarded the next. Fame had given her recognition, wealth, and influence, but it had also deepened her sense of isolation. Bea married twice in her life. Her first marriage, to Robert Allen Arthur, a screenwriter and producer, ended in divorce not long after it began. Though their time together was brief, it was significant. It was during this marriage that she adopted his surname, modifying it slightly to become Bea Arthur, the name that would follow her throughout her career. Her second marriage to stage director Gene Saks seemed more promising. The couple had 2 sons together, and for years they balanced family life with the chaos of show business. But Bea's demanding career and Gene's own commitments to theater eventually strained the marriage. After nearly 3 decades, they divorced in 1980. Though Bea continued to love her children fiercely, the breakdown of her marriage left her emotionally scarred. Colleagues often described her as brilliant but difficult. She wasn't the kind of actress who charmed everyone on set with constant smiles or small talk. Bea could be blunt, sharp, and even intimidating. Many mistook this for arrogance, but those close to her revealed it was really a form of self-protection. Bea struggled with deep insecurities, often questioning whether she was truly loved for who she was or only for the characters she portrayed. Her insecurities weren't just emotional. They were physical, too. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, Bea had spent much of her life feeling self-conscious about her appearance. She wasn't Hollywood's typical idea of beauty, and though she turned her uniqueness into strength on stage, she privately battled feelings of inadequacy. Dorothy Zbornak's biting sarcasm often came from a very real place inside Bea Arthur herself. In her later years, she withdrew more and more from the spotlight. After the Golden Girls ended, she continued to work occasionally, returning to Broadway and making guest appearances. She even launched a one-woman show, Bea Arthur, on Broadway, just between friends, which allowed her to connect with audiences on her own terms. Yet even in these moments of triumph, Bea's loneliness remained. Friends described her home life as quiet and solitary, with Bea preferring the company of her pets to Hollywood's endless parties. She also carried the weight of personal regrets. Bea often wondered whether her bluntness had cost her lasting friendships or damaged her relationships with co-stars. While she respected Betty White, for example, their differences created a distance that never fully healed. Some believed Bea longed for deeper connections, but struggled to bridge the gap between her guarded heart and the people who wanted to get close. As she aged, health problems began to take their toll. Though she rarely discussed her ailments publicly, Bea faced battles that tested her resilience. She valued her privacy fiercely, keeping much of her personal pain away from the tabloids. For fans who only saw her confident television persona, the reality was hard to imagine. Bea Arthur, the strong and unshakable Dorothy Zbornak, was in truth a woman quietly grappling with frailty, regret, and the passage of time. It was this contradiction, public strength paired with private struggle, that made her story so compelling. Bea Arthur wasn't just a star. She was human. And as her life entered its final act, the world would soon learn that even the boldest voices can fall silent in ways that leave fans heartbroken. In the final stretch of her life, Bea Arthur stepped away from the constant demands of Hollywood, but she never lost the respect or admiration of her fans. While some actors fade quietly into obscurity, Bea remained a cultural icon until the very end. Even as she retreated from the spotlight, her sharp humor and commanding presence continued to shape how audiences remembered her. By the early 2000s, Bea appeared less frequently on screen, choosing instead to focus on personal projects and occasional stage appearances. In 2002, she delighted audiences with her one-woman show, Bea Arthur, on Broadway, just between friends. It was intimate, witty, and heartfelt, giving fans a glimpse of the woman behind the characters. Through stories, jokes, and songs, Bea revealed pieces of herself she had long kept hidden. The performance was a critical success and earned her another Tony nomination, proving that even in her later years, she could still captivate audiences. But while the applause continued, her private life grew quieter. Bea preferred the company of her animals and a small circle of close friends to the bright lights of Hollywood. She lived a relatively simple life, often avoiding interviews and media attention. Friends described her as deeply private, even shy at times, an image that clashed with the fearless women she played on screen. In her final years, Bea battled illness, though she rarely spoke about it publicly. She was diagnosed with cancer but chose to keep her fight out of the headlines. For someone who had lived much of her life in front of cameras, this was her way of maintaining dignity and control. She did not want her legacy overshadowed by tabloid speculation about her health. On April 25, 2009, Bea Arthur passed away at the age of 86. The news stunned fans around the world. To many, she was still Dorothy Zbornak, the strong, sarcastic, and unshakable Golden Girl. Her death felt like the end of an era, not just for television but for comedy itself. Tributes poured in immediately. Betty White, Rue McClanahan, and countless others in Hollywood praised Bea for her trailblazing work and her refusal to compromise who she was. Fans remembered the groundbreaking roles she brought to life. Maude Findlay, who fearlessly tackled social issues on primetime television, and Dorothy Zbornak, who showed the world that women could be powerful, witty, and relevant well past middle age. But perhaps Bea's greatest legacy was how she made people feel. She gave a voice to those who felt overlooked, ignored, or dismissed. She represented strength, resilience, and honesty in an industry that often demanded conformity. Whether she was sparring with Archie Bunker or trading barbs with Sophia on The Golden Girls, Bea embodied authenticity. Even after her passing, Bea Arthur's influence continues. Reruns of her shows introduced new generations to her work, and streaming services ensured her performances reached audiences far beyond her lifetime. In 2010, she was posthumously honored when her estate made a $300,000 donation to help homeless LGBTQ+ youth, reflecting Bea's quiet commitment to social causes she believed in. Her story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Inspiring, because Bea Arthur broke barriers and redefined what it meant to be a woman in Hollywood. Heartbreaking, because behind the laughter, she carried burdens of loneliness, self-doubt, and private battles few ever truly understood. For millions of fans, Bea Arthur will always be remembered as more than just an actress. She was a force of nature, brilliant, uncompromising, and unforgettable. And though she is no longer with us, her voice, her humor, and her fearless spirit continue to echo through television screens, reminding us all that even the most formidable people carry quiet struggles behind their strength.